everybody, and welcome to Flock Talk episode 14. Today we're going to be talking about games unfinished. Should be a good time. So today we're going to be talking about games that we haven't finished yet, but first we got some hot topics to cover.
Hot topics.
And our hot topics this month are just going to be what our games of the year were.
Yeah, it's a New Year's Day, so it's a new year. We can talk about 2016 now.
2017.
Oh yeah, 2017. Oh boy.
And then once we're done talking about 2017, we can burn it in the dumpster fire and never think about it again.
This was a really bad year.
Yeah, hey, listen, one of the worst.
All right, so who wants to go first with their game of the year? Maybe Chris?
Sure, I'll go first because I think it's the most obvious. The game of the year, the game that came out that I enjoyed this year the most is Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game that came out.
Sorry, we didn't give you a drum roll.
Because we knew it was coming. How obvious of you to just pick the game that the Game Awards gave best game of the year to.
Yeah, it's like you just Googled it and then was like, yeah, that's my best game of the year too.
Yeah, it's like I played the best game of the year and then agreed with everybody when they said it was the best game of the year. Imagine.
So what makes Breath of the Wild game of the year?
I always theoretically enjoy open world games. I always enjoy the idea of going out. In theory, I enjoy going out and doing whatever I want. And then ultimately, I get 10 hours into these games and it's shown me what it's got. Stories maybe not as compelling as it needs to be to keep me going. And then I'm like, I do not need to fetch a million things. I am done with this again. So I get 10 hours in and then I just stop caring and stop playing these games. Because I don't know, the last one I played seriously was probably Skyrim. The last one I played with any kind of length was Skyrim because I really like those games. But something like Grand Theft Auto 5 never really captured my attention. And the Assassin's Creed...
I love that one.
Yeah, sure. And the Assassin's Creed's game...
I gotta side with you on that one. I heard this new one is really good, but what a year to release it.
Yeah, sure, but I get like 10 hours in. Can't give it my all. The Switch is a specifically awesome console for this. Because it can switch from mobile and TV, you can spend hours, whatever you're doing, playing this game. So I played a lot of it on the subway.
And the toilet?
Actually, not so much, because I have really bad luck when I bring tablets and stuff in there.
Okay.
Things
What are you
break.
doing there?
No, things break, things fall on the floor. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, and I try not to do it.
Is Breath of the Wild a game that you can play like say you just have like half an hour or something and get enough done in a half an hour? Because I find with open world, I feel like anytime you want to play it, you kind of commit yourselves to like a few hours of play.
Because of the Switch has a specific kind of architecture where you turn it on and you're right back into the game. There's no downtime. So like you turn it on in 3 taps of a thing, you're doing whatever you were doing the last time you turned on the Switch. So the Switch is pretty great about that. There's no downtime about getting back into the game. And my commute in the morning and in the afternoon is about 50 minutes. Like you could get what you needed to get done. The shrines, the things.
Really? Okay.
Like, the castles kind of take probably 2 hours each if you're really stuck. But the shrines themselves, they can take half an hour. And getting to a place doesn't take too long. But really, Breath of the Wild is so good because the exploration is so interesting. Finding things in this game is so interesting. When you find one of those nodes for an area, it doesn't just throw up all the things you can do. It just says, here's a new place. And it's kind of up to you to find it. And the exploration is so compelling that you just want to keep finding out what's in this world.
Now, I have to ask, is it your favorite game in the franchise? Is it your favorite Zelda game?
Like, Ocarina of Time has that nostalgia feeling for me. The factor of nostalgia lives large with Ocarina of Time, and to a lesser extent, Majora's Mask. But I'd say that it was the one I have played in my adulthood that I have most enjoyed.
Is it the best game you've played in your adulthood?
See, now that's a good question. I would say that probably World of Warcraft very much had that exploration feel that I really enjoyed, and I got into that one way more, but I had a lot more time. I don't know if I would get into World of Warcraft the same way if it came out today, but those two are probably in the running for 2 of my favorite games of all time. and they would be very high up on any list I made. It's really good. Most of the systems work kind of perfectly. I would say that the stuff that I didn't like was some of the weather stuff. When it rains, you can really end up not doing anything. You can really get stopped in your tracks. Like if you're trying to like climb up a hill and it rains and you just fall down the hill. So when it's raining, you kind of got to go do something else. And there's some places in the world, especially in kind of a rainforesty area where it rains all the time. So it's a bit of a pain. But otherwise, Breath of the Wild, so understated, so quiet. It's such a quiet game. It's so good.
So you heard it here first. Breath of the Wild is a good game.
You guys should probably check it out. I don't know what you're waiting for.
That's my hot take. That's my newest hot take, Breath of the Wild.
Kathryn, is your game of the year also Breath of the Wild?
It's not, because we don't own it and I haven't played it. And I don't know if it would be. It might be. I didn't play that many games from this year, but I saw you play pretty much every game from this year, except for Breath of the Wild. But I think for games that I played and enjoyed this year, for me, it was the Layton's Mystery Journey, Ketriel, and the Millionaire's Conspiracy. I just love Professor Layton games. This one didn't have Professor Layton in it, but it had his daughter, and it was the same formula, and I loved it.
Yeah, you devoured that game in like
just in a couple days because I can't put it down, and I love the puzzle solving aspects. I love the different kinds of puzzles. I think I talked about it on an earlier podcast. I found the puzzles not as challenging. Like, they were still challenging, but there weren't as many really difficult puzzles. But I really liked the story. I liked playing through it, and I liked all the character designs and stuff like that. I played a lot of DS games this year because we got the new 2DS XL.
Do you notice a huge difference on the 2DS XL from the 3DS?
I like that it is lighter. It's not as heavy. I'm assuming it's because it doesn't have the 3D part, and so it's just a lighter, more compact system.
I don't think that the 3D part of it probably takes up too much room in the 3DS. Anyway, that's just a...
Oh, maybe. I don't know why this one's lighter. Maybe it's just made from like lighter plastic, or they've just refined whatever's inside of it. So it's more compact.
I played a lot of 3DS this year too, and I never play with the 3D on.
No, I never used the 3D. And like, even if I had a game where it needed it a little bit, well, most games don't even really require it, and it would just give me a headache. You really have to just look at it head on and at a very particular angle for it to really capture the proper 3D. And then if you're off of that viewing angle, it just starts to look blurry, and so I just always turned it off.
I think it's probably best in the hands of kids whose arms are shorter, and so they, when they like hold it, are holding it at like the best distance.
Yeah, I never really thought of that.
Like, we would like to hold it in our laps, right, and play it looking down, and that's not the ideal distance anyway.
Oh, that makes sense. I never really thought of that.
Listen, toys aren't for kids. They're for us adults to enjoy and keep in the plastic.
And hoard.
Yeah.
The other notable 2017 game for me was the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale game, which I finished just this month. I started it when we recorded the last episode. For me, I really like Guardians of the Galaxy, so that one was a really fun one for me to play through. It was the first Telltale game that I played. Like, I watched Myles play a bunch, and I just really enjoyed the story for this one, the choices that I made, how things turned out.
Did you regret any of the decisions that you made?
Yeah, there were some decisions. Really early on, you kind of pick your sides between two of the Guardians, and I really stuck by one of them, and now I'm really curious what the other side of that story is, like how badly the other person would take it. You know, like if I made the opposite
choices. Would you play it again?
I think so. It's interesting enough for me because those 5 characters, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, or 6, however many there are now, but they're well established now, so you have like a sense of who they are and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to see how their stories change if you do other things, like make different choices. And there was like sometimes some of the choices when they do the, they kind of recap. I don't know, Chris, if you've ever played a Telltale game. Oh, you've played the Game of Thrones one, right?
Yeah, I played the Game of Thrones one.
At the end of a chapter, that kind of tells you like your choices and how they align with the rest of the players who have done them. And there are some choices where it's like 100% of the people made this choice. So then it kind of feels like it wasn't really a choice.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious to see if you can choose the other way. And if it's such an unpopular choice, how much an impact that has. on the story.
Do you think that it might ruin the game for you if you go back and play it and realize that no matter what you do, the same outcome happens?
No, I kind of understand it from that type of game, that it does kind of have to funnel you and kind of push you in one direction so that you can get basically an ending, the same ending. But I don't think I would be disappointed. I just think I'm more curious to see how they handle that, because I kind of feel like there are certain points in the story that everyone has to hit. And so to see how your different choices lead to that same place, I think would be kind of interesting. But that's just me. I'm kind of weird. Like maybe I'd...
No, I loved watching you play that game. It was like watching an animated Guardian spin-off movie. Like
Yeah. The characters like looked different enough from the movie characters. Well, no, some of them looked exactly the same. But I like the way Gamora was designed. She looked very different from her movie version.
And Star-Lord didn't look like Chris Pratt at all.
Yeah, and he was really funny, and that was the one thing, like, I played him to kind of be a really good balance of, like, funny and serious. I'm kind of curious to see, you know, like, if you just always make him kind of jokey, if people start reacting to him differently. Like, there's a lot of, like, little things like that that could be interesting, that could affect the game in a way that, you know, I wouldn't think. Like, if you always pick the jokey answer, then does that just mean everyone gets annoyed with him for not taking things seriously and stuff like that? Like, I think it would be interesting to experiment with.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's a game that came out in 2018 that you'll still be or 2017 that you'll still be playing in 2018. Much like Chris's Breath of the Wild, and much like my Yakuza Zero.
Oh, Yakuza Zero.
You're not going to play it anymore, are you?
Oh, Yakuza Zero has so much replay value. I heard recently that once you get into the cabaret minigame from Goro, it gets really good.
Oh, that's the one you didn't do. You did all of the other guys.
And honestly, like, I fell in love with this franchise, this whole series this year. It was the first game of 2017 that I played, Yakuza Zero, and I was like, oh man, this is probably my game of the year. It just held all the way through. We didn't get just one Yakuza game this year, we got two. We got Yakuza Kiwami as well, which, although it is a remake of the first game, they added story elements that play off of what happened in Yakuza Zero. So it really feels like we got a nice $40 DLC to Yakuza Zero. And that game is, again, a 30-40 hour game that I couldn't put down. And I think it blends the seriousness of the story with the comedy of the side quests so well. So every time you feel like, oh man, I need a breather, this is getting too heavy for me, there's some guy that wants you to beat up a kid that stole his video games. So you can always like mix and match. And I love that you can walk into so many shops in the world. The fact that there is fast travel, but you really don't need to use it once you learn the map. It's fun to just roam the streets and beat people up, and money comes out of them, just like in real life.
Just like in real life.
It feels like a 3D River City Ransom, which is all I've ever asked for. So I'm going to be playing Yakuza 6 comes out this year, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Are you going to play in order?
No,
you just
I'm not
play
going to.
only the new ones.
You don't need to, right?
Yeah, I don't really need to.
It is chronological story-wise, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's kind of neat to kind of bounce around, I think, maybe.
I don't want my taste to sour
because
from it.
of the graphics or something.
Yeah, I would consider playing 6, and then Yakuza Kiwami 2 is coming out. And then after that point, we're in PS3 territory, so then I could go 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, that's not too bad, actually. PS3 still holds up, guys.
And Kathryn, you mentioned your second favorite game. It's kind of interesting because my favorite game of the year was the first game I played in 2017, and my second favorite was the last new game I played in 2017, which is Cuphead. And we haven't finished it yet. It is beautiful. The sound, everything, the way that the game is executed is done perfectly. And it's made by two people from Mississauga.
Mm-hmm.
Local folks. Mississauga is just beside Toronto.
And the game it's really just wonderful. I never knew I wanted a game like this, but it's definitely the best run and gun I've ever played.
Are you two playing it together?
No, we only have one controller for the Xbox One right now. But it's probably a good thing because I've played it a little bit and I'm really bad at it.
The game is tough.
It's really hard. But I think that's actually really telling. I think both games it's actually quite telling because with Yakuza Zero, Myles would normally never waste his time with side quests. He would be like, I'm not going to bother with this. I just want to see how the story ends. But he would spend hours just doing stuff in the city and not even progressing the story. And the same with Cuphead, where you die maybe 100 times on one boss and he's just like, oh, this game's so beautiful, right? Any any other game, he'd be like, oh, this game is the worst. Like, I can't get better at it, or it's so frustrating. But Cuphead, he's like dying and still admiring the level designs, the bosses, the character designs, everything. Like, he's just getting crushed by this game and loving it. And normally Myles would have, as an example, he was playing Metro Redux and just got annoyed by it and was like, nope, that's it, I'm done with this game. Like, I don't know how far you are into it.
I was just like, we live in a world with infinite great games at this point, right? Like, why waste your time on something that you know isn't that great just to finish it?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm talking a little bit too much about what's going to be in our main topic about why I'd quit a game. And we still have some more hot topics to cover. What was the best game that you played that didn't come out in 2017? For me, it's got to be Resident Evil 4. I hadn't played that game yet. I played Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 when they came out, and I had always just skipped Resident Evil 4.
I'd heard 4 was a lot of people's favorite. That's
Yeah.
why I was really surprised that you hadn't played it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of like I just stopped playing video games at the time when Resident Evil 4 came out.
Have you played it, Chris?
No, what was the one that came out this year?
Resident Evil 7.
Did you like it better or worse than Resident Evil 7?
I can't play Resident Evil 7, Chris. We've been over this.
Too scary.
I turn it on and I get so scared. It's so scary.
Too scary.
It's a ghost and it's a creepy house. And I don't want to play it, Chris.
So what you're saying is that 4 is not as scary as 7.
4 is a bit of an action game, action adventure. So there's like, you shoot a lot of zombies, things come out of their neck holes, and you shoot those things, and then there's puzzles.
Okay.
That's my kind of game, Chris. I gotta tell you, I like that sort of thing.
If you're looking for the scares, 7.
Oh, if you're looking for the scares, 7 for sure.
Yeah.
Like, it's a VR game. I can't even imagine playing that game in VR.
That's crazy, right?
It's awful.
People have done it.
Yeah, Julian.
It looks terrifying.
The Latin legend.
Chris, did you play anything this year that didn't come out this year that you loved?
So mine is a board game because I like mixing that in, as some people know.
You're our board game guy.
So a lot of these amazing board games have come out in years past, and you only find out how good they are when I rely on a few review websites, and some of them only get to certain games years later or their back catalog. I don't want to go through 10 years of videos to find out how a game is, but Concordia, which I think has been getting a reprint recently, got a reprint, I think, last year, and there was some copies left over at the very beginning of this year that I picked up one up of, and it's getting a reprint now. I think it was designed it came out in 2012, 2011. It is really easy to teach. I've spoken about it on the podcast before, but I think it's a great trading in the Mediterranean game. It's been really good this year. I played it a ton. I bought all the map packs for it. The maps are all interesting. It's really cool. It's
Myles and I have never played that with you.
I know, because we have other things to do when we get together.
Your favorite game, and we've never played it with you.
Oh, hey, come over and play Concordia with me. I love it.
We definitely should, but is it scary? I don't like scary games, Chris.
No, we've played it a lot. Since we've played it a lot, we're a bit better, obviously, than the people we teach for the first time. And you got to play it twice to really understand what's going on. It's hard to invite people over to have a night of it when, like, I'm going to crush them in the first round. And then it's going to be like, oh, hey, do you guys want to play that hour-and-a-half game a second time? Because now you actually know what's happening. Maybe there's a way of teaching that I could teach it better. We're always trying to get better here. Always trying to improve our game.
It sounds like a good game to hustle people out of their money.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you want to play this simple game? Never even seen it before.
$20.
$20 a game.
So, Kathryn, have you gambled on any board games this year? I'm just kidding. Have you played any games that you loved that didn't come out in 2017?
So they're two and they're kind of the same, but I put Bowser's Inside Story on the DS because I was just trying to figure out the CCABC, and I think it was my B maybe for that, and I didn't realize it was an RPG. I didn't know it was in the same vein as Super Mario RPG, and I started playing it. I'm like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. I thought it would just be like a platformer or something, and then I really enjoyed it. And then the Q Dogs, when they came up to visit, they brought us a copy of Super Mario Sticker Star. So I'm kind of calling those both. That they were both games. I don't think Sticker Star came out this year.
No, it didn't.
I didn't know how much I like these little Super Mario RPGs on DS. Then I played 2 of them this year, and they're not short games. And
you finished them in like a week each.
Yeah, I got
Jesus.
super into them, and I love them because they were both extremely unique in terms of like the combat, the story and stuff. Like Bowser's Inside Story, you're a little Mario literally inside of Bowser, right? Like you're in his stomach and stuff, and like you go and you control his brain. And then when you're in the overworld, Mario has to like do something that inside of Bowser that gets him to do stuff in the overworld. Like it'll give him a super punch, or, you know, make him jump or breathe fire or something. Like really interesting, like quirky little story like that. And then Sticker Star, the combat was literally finding stickers of boots and things that would give you like a jump attack, or if you find like a fire hammer, you can do a fire hammer attack. Myles asked, I remember when I was playing, like, are you worried that you're going to run out of stickers? I'm like, no, you find a ton of stickers. Like,
because you can only attack with a sticker.
yeah, you have to use stickers to attack.
All
but
right.
then you find like some items, like you'll find like a vacuum cleaner, and then you can get a sticker of that vacuum cleaner, and then it's like a super power attack that will like suck up your enemies and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like really fun elements like that in that game. So I was just like, I'm on board. I've heard that Color Splash isn't great, but I still want to play it.
Oh yeah, we'll finish it.
And like
sure.
Paper Mario, I haven't played the original Paper Mario. We played the one for Wii, I think. Right?
Yeah, and there's 2 before that. There's the GameCube and the N64 one.
Yeah, so I'm on board to play any of these now because I really, really like them. I've discovered that I love them, so.
They're great, yeah. I mean, I love Super Mario RPG, and we started Mario plus Rabbids. We got to finish it in 2018.
That's not RPG, though.
You guys have got some stuff to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got a lot of
strategy
work to do,
RPG.
Chris.
But that's it for Hot Topics. Now we're going to go over to our main topic, which are embarrassing games that we haven't finished yet and we're so ashamed of.
I'm not ashamed.
Ashamed.
This is Player One of the Cartridge Club, and I wanted to take a second to tell you about Bonus Barrel. BB is made up of developers, artists, and testers from within the gaming world, and they bring their knowledge and insight to every show. Topics ranging from gaming culture to development cycles, you don't want to miss what these insiders have to say. Every Wednesday, you can get your fill of Rob, Seiji, Lef, and Shelby wherever you listen to podcasts.
So our topic this week is games that we have not finished yet. Either we put it down because it was annoying, we didn't feel like it was worth finishing, or just too dang hard for us. Or maybe a game that you thought, maybe I'll come back to this one day, and then that one day never came. Do either of you have any experiences with games like that?
I have not finished Dragon Age Inquisition. I just can't do it.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
I loved Dragon Age 2. I loved it. And I hadn't finished Dragon Age Origins. And then I got Dragon Age 2 and I got super into it. And I finished it. So then I went back and finished Dragon Age Origins. Like, I love Dragon Age 2 so much that it motivated me to finish the first one. And so then I thought when Dragon Age Inquisition came out, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. Like, I love this series. I'm just going to dive right in. And then I had about 3 false starts where I couldn't figure out how to change my race. And so the default was a Kunari. And then I played the beginning section, like the little intro part, and I was so like, I just didn't love my character. I'm like, I don't want to be a Kunari. This is no fun for me. And then I went back and I made another character, and then for me, if I leave a game for too long, so I played the opening sequence again, got a little bit further as the character I created, and then I think maybe time or something, like I just didn't have time to play anymore. But for me, if I leave a game, especially a game like Dragon Age, any Dragon Age game for too long, the controls are different enough from game to game. I'm like, I don't remember how to do anything. I can try to muddle my way through and try to remember, or I just start again, right?
Also, like, the Dragon Age games kind of upset me because they're not really made for a controller. Like, they're really made to be on the computer with mouse and keyboard, to be able to switch easily through the people and all the interfaces and everything.
Yeah.
Do you just tab through the characters?
Yeah, you can. I find it's a lot harder with the controller, so I always end up just being the rogue, because, like, traps, I need to be in advance to do the traps, and I don't really want to switch between, like, say, my character, who would normally be, like, the fighter or the mage, to the character who's always got to be the one that just goes a little bit further to see if there are traps or anything.
I feel like I would never play a healer.
Yeah, of course not.
In the way that it works, like I understand at least how to just set up my healer to always heal the like people with the least amount of health. Like I can understand that part of it really well. So I'm like, oh, my healer's great. Like she just takes care of everyone. So I'll never play a healer because I'd have to then learn like all the best tactics for the warrior or the best tactics for the ranger and stuff like that. It's just too much more to have to learn. So I usually play a tanky type character, but I think once I played it as a rogue. It's so weird. Like I would play Dragon Age 2 again before I try Dragon Age Inquisition, but I won't because it'll drive me nuts. And I'll be like, I will finish Dragon Age Inquisition. I know there's mixed reviews for it, and I think I'm not the only person who's had a hard time getting into it. So
no, I got 3/4 of the way in, and I was like, oh, I think I've seen everything.
Yeah, you're very good at walking away though. Like,
oh yeah, like I do not care about what happens at the end of that game.
if I got 3/4 of the way through, I'd have to finish. Like I just couldn't. And you're so good at being like, yeah, I've seen enough, and just walk away. I can't do that.
And you did that with Doom, didn't you, Chris? Like you were like, I saw enough of this. It's amazing, but I'm done. And you walked away.
No, I finished Doom.
Oh, I thought you walked away.
There
from
was
that one.
another
No, I
game
finished
though
Doom.
where you played enough of it.
I walked away from Bloodborne.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I got maybe halfway through Bloodborne, and I was like, who's got the time? I was like, this is great. You know what? If Bloodborne was on the Switch, or if Dark Souls was on the Switch, I'd be playing it constantly.
Oh.
I believe that From Software is doing a Switch game.
I hope so. I can't wait.
Yeah, that'd be good. Interesting.
What keeps you from finishing a game?
If something takes my interest away. So my interest in games kind of waxes and wanes and peaks and valleys. So I get really into something for a week or two, and then my interest in that thing has gone down a bit, and my interest in something else is on the rise, and I only have such a limited amount of time that if something else is capturing my interest, I go with that one.
Is there like some sort of sense of satisfaction for you when you complete a game? Or is it just as good leaving the game and watching the ending on YouTube?
Oh, I don't watch the ending on YouTube. I never like cap off the experience. I'm always like, oh, one day I'll get back to that. But inevitably I usually don't because something else has come and...
Wow, it's funny. Like, you really just walk away.
Yeah.
You have no interest in seeing what you've missed or anything
I
like
have
that.
dozens of unfinished games here that I just picked up to take a look. I refund games on Steam all the time. I get like 2 hours in and I'm like, am I ever realistically going to play this for longer? And I'm like, nah, I'm not.
That refund option is really good.
Yeah, I wish there was a refund option on PlayStation 4 because I could have given back No Man's Sky.
I had a feeling that was gonna
I
come up.
heard that No Man's Sky got really good, and you
Give
should
me
be
a
happy
break.
to have it. I
Oh,
heard it's
God.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
you should
No.
finish it. Yeah, I heard it's
Really?
really good. I heard that 2017 was the year for No Man's Sky, but it was also the year that all these amazing games came out, so nobody could go back to it.
No. You get one chance. You get one chance, and if you're releasing your game in a unfinished garbage state, I'm not going back to it. Couldn't care less.
I think that's valid.
I played a game, I think this year, called Cluster Truck, and it was this indie game where you're like a parkour free runner, and you're running on trucks constantly.
Oh.
And the only safe spot for you to land or stand on is on a moving truck. And the courses look like Super Monkey Ball a little bit.
Yeah.
Where they're just like these random things in the sky, and you're running on trucks that are falling from the sky sometimes and doing flips, and you get different abilities, like ability to float a little longer, or a double jump, or a dash, different abilities like that. And I loved it. I couldn't put it down when I was playing it, and then I got to the very last boss, and I couldn't beat the first version of the boss. Do you know how when you get to a final boss, it transforms, like you beat it initially, and then it transforms into something else, and then you have to beat it again, and then on the third one, the third version of the boss, that's when
The final form.
The final form, exactly. I couldn't get past the first part, and I played it for like maybe 2 hours, and I was just like, no, we're done. Because I looked on YouTube to see what somebody had to do, and it was just like, they did it, and then it got so much harder, and they had to do the exact same thing again, but it was way harder, and I was like, I can't do the first one, so I'm done here. Like, I'm not gonna waste my time. I don't need to get so good at Cluster Truck.
Which is why Cuphead is interesting. The way that your attitude towards Cuphead is interesting.
But Cuphead changes constantly.
Yeah, and it also, like, it really... The thing that Cuphead shows you, which is very clever, is when you're fighting a boss, you don't see their life meter, but when you die, you see how close you got to beating the boss.
Ah, that's good.
It's clever, right? So there are times where the final boss, it's like a flag, right? And there's stages, and like Myles will just be like just kissing that final flag. I'm like, oh, you almost had it. And then you'll play it like 12 more times, 20 more times, you know, because you know that you got so close once.
And when you beat it, there's this really satisfying voice that comes on that goes, knockout! and when you get that finally after like dying 50 times,
and the bell rings, right?
And
Like,
yeah,
ding,
and the
ding,
bell
ding,
rings, and you get that, and it's always a surprise because you've died so many times in a row, and you're like, there's no way I beat it. There's no way, and then you do it, and you're like, oh my god, I get this rush, like this huge adrenaline rush from beating bosses. So that really propels me to keep playing the game even though it's hard and difficult. And
Cuphead is essentially crack. So.
Oh, that's the same feeling that you get from Bloodborne or something like that.
I thought you were gonna say from like shooting up heroin, and I was like,
No,
geez.
what? That's the same feeling I get from crack cocaine.
Sorry.
It's fun.
Oh, hey, don't do drugs. That's our PSA.
Sure, I mean, yeah. If
Play
you're listening to
Cuphead
this-
instead.
unless you really like that feeling you get from Cuphead,
Stop,
then drugs are also good. Where do we go from here?
Chris.
Where do we go from here? What games have I not finished this year? There are a variety of them. The Witcher 3, unfinished this year.
Did you not like Witcher 3? Like, I want to play
liked it very much. I liked it very much. It seemed very good. And then I got to a point where I was in a place and I had to re-put on all my clothes. And, it seemed good. It seemed good at the time, but something else took my interest.
Why did you not have any of your clothes on?
Don't.
It's The Witcher 3. I think that's a question for The Witcher 3 more than me. Torment, Tides of Numenaria. That is a game that I was like, I read enough on the subway. I do not need to read at home.
If it was on the
Finished.
Switch, would you finish it?
All of these games, if they were on the Switch. The Switch is my favorite console of all time. Give me a game on the Switch.
Wow.
That game's getting
All right.
finished.
Interesting.
Shin Megami Tensei 4. Unfinished. Will never be finished.
Oh, is it good though, or you didn't like it? Because I really want to play it.
Oh, it's great. I think I got like 25 hours in. And I was like, I'm done. I've seen everything just increases in power. There was one boss fight in that game, and I was like, this is fantastic. I really enjoy this. I started playing a bit more after that, and I was like, none of this is as hard as that was, so I'm kind of done with it.
Maybe there's something coming that you haven't seen yet.
Sure. I think the game's like 70 hours long, so there's plenty coming that I haven't seen yet.
You started Persona 5 as well this year.
Yes, Nina and I started playing Persona 5 together. We're engaging with Persona 5 in the same way we engage with seasons of TV shows. Say there are 100 hours. I think there are 10 big castles in Persona 5. We've done the first 2. We're on the 3rd. We will come back to it, but 20 hours of television is 20 hours of television, and we needed a break for a little while.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope you finish it because it gets really good.
There's only so much you can binge anything, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure. You got to take everything in moderation, guys. Everything in moderation, just like games. Sometimes you got to take them, and then you got to, if you're not having that great of a time, then it's time to cast them aside. What else? Oh, like every game you guys gave me this year. Unfinished.
oh yeah, you never finished Yakuza, right?
Yeah, I got like an hour into Yakuza Zero, and I was like, why can't I do anything in this game? All right. This game doesn't respect my time. Adios.
Oh, I liked the...
It does take about an hour before the world opens.
It takes an hour before you get to press a button that isn't continue the
yeah,
dialogue.
it has like a 20-minute cutscene at the
There's
beginning.
a lot of... There's a cutscene like later on in the game. I think it's 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think your controller fell asleep or something.
Yeah, I think it disconnects your controller.
Jesus.
But I still loved it.
You know what? I thought of a board game that we left unfinished.
That's right.
Risk
Also
Legacy.
on my list. Risk
Yeah.
Legacy is unfinished. Will we ever finish Risk Legacy? I think
hope
we
so.
keep saying we will.
I think we will, but I have now already forgotten how to play Risk. So I'd have to relearn how to play the game first.
Yeah.
I liked it, and so I don't know. Maybe
It's pretty straightforward.
Explain Risk Legacy though to people if they don't know.
So Risk Legacy is a game where you're playing a series of games of the game of Risk, and that probably sounds terrible to a lot of people. Risk kind of sucks, and it goes on, or it can go on forever, and everyone gets really mad during it because you have to attack other people. But Risk Legacy changes all of that by making all of the games matter to the next game you play. So if you really use all your resources in one region of the map, then that map might get a bad sticker that affects whatever happens there in the future. And you can improve areas, you can add cities to the board, you can make it so that the race that you're playing as gets significantly better over time. Each game affects the next game, and once you're done the 15 games, you throw the thing out. It's garbage.
But it's 15 plays. That's pretty good. And so it's intended for you to play with the same group of people 15 times. That's a really big commitment, especially for a game like Risk. But the modification of the board, like that whole mechanic where you finish the game and then you like get to open up little secret compartments in the box and reveal like a new race or a new whatever they have in there. That might have been a little spoiler, but there's all these little modifications that you're not expecting. You get to choose, you get to name cities and get to
change point values of cities.
Oh, it's so much fun, like marking up the board. And
the reason why I think that we stopped playing that game was because Chris was so far ahead.
Ugh, yeah, we can't beat Chris. Chris is taking
and so
risk.
we just didn't want to give him the satisfaction of actually beating the game.
Mm-hmm. Right, and there is something. I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this and going like, "Oh, if I buy a board game, I want to be able to play it, 30 times. I want to be able to play it 40 times, 50 times." But actually, they've done some studies on Board Game Geek, or maybe one study that I was reading about, that showed that most people, when they buy a new game, are lucky to get, say, 10 plays out of it.
Okay.
I think that's generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 5 plays.
And it would have to be a really good game.
Yeah. To get past 5 or 6 plays, you've got to be like, it's got to be like one of the classic top 100 games. You got to have a group of people that's really into playing it over and over again. So 15 plays for me is perfect. It's fine.
And you know what? It's a really clever thing because board games right now, it's such a booming competitive market, right? There's so many versions of a type of game that you can play. Like you have a ton of board games and we don't even play that many board games and we own quite a few, right?
Yeah, and I never get to play most of them. I have a wall of dashed dreams. That's my wall of board games.
And then you say that you play Concordia all the time, right? Like,
yeah,
that's how good a game has to be, right? Like it has to be so good that you won't even try other games that are just sitting on your shelf.
Yeah. Another game that we all bought together and we have not finished is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Oh yeah, we gotta play that. It's super fun.
We should set up a night where we finish Risk Legacy or start or play a little bit of both.
What's it called? Consulting Detective? It's like it's kind of like that D&D game that you were talking about. Well, you compared it to Sherlock. It's got like a little case, and I like the newspaper. So whichever case you're playing has a newspaper. So I think there's 10 cases, right?
Yep.
So there's 10 little fake newspapers in the box. So you pull out the newspaper from that day, and then you scour it for clues and stuff. It's pretty fun. Like I think it's really clever. Like you really feel like a detective when you're doing that.
It's a very good game. They came out with a second edition of it, or they came out with a continuation of it that has the Jack the Ripper murders.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
That sounds fun.
It's 4 mysteries in a sequence. So one goes on
they
to the
build
next one,
off
goes,
to each
yeah.
other. Oh, okay.
And I've got that, and still haven't gone through the Jack the Ripper ones because I'm saving those for when I'm really interested and into it. Part of the thing about these board games is that you can just go back to them. They never become obsolete because the system like dies on them.
I would love to be part of that Jack the Ripper game. I listened to a 4-part podcast on Jack the Ripper recently.
Oh, all right.
And I would be very interested in the mythos of Jack the Ripper and solving that crime when nobody else could. I think it's part of the royal family. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Whoa!
Oh, you're on the From Hell bandwagon.
It's got to be. It's got to be. That's why the investigation was so poor.
Oh,
You heard it here last.
All right. I also want to talk about some other games that I haven't finished in a little while. Every Nintendo game, every original NES game that I couldn't finish as a kid, I would love to be able to go back and finish it.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. This is nonsense.
More specifically, I want to beat Mike Tyson. And I said this 14 episodes ago.
Oh, you still haven't beaten
I
him.
still haven't beaten Mike Tyson. I said I wanted to beat 30 games in 2017. I beat 60 games in 2017.
And not one of them.
Not one of them had Mike Tyson in it. So this year, I'm going to beat Mike Tyson. This is
right.
the year. I can feel it.
2018.
My bones.
You're going to beat Mike Tyson.
There's a game that comes to mind that is an NES game that I never finished. It's called Time Lord.
Ooh.
I had a copy of Time Lord. It was hard. There was no way to get more lives. I never finished it. I do not look back. There's no looking back, guys.
Oh, we could learn a lot from Chris.
And Chris, you just recently got the Super Nintendo Classic.
I did.
And that has save states in it.
Yes, and one of the big games that I've never finished is Link to the Past. So I've started that. I'm starting to work my way through Link to the Past.
Awesome.
I've played it to about maybe half of the way through before. Then my attention went elsewhere. And so now I'm gonna take this time to finish up Link to the Past. Yeah, save states. They're great.
I
agree.
Only made it an hour or two into Link to the Past, and I wasn't feeling it, and I moved on to something else. I might go back to it and play that one, especially knowing that you're playing it and you want to finish it.
Here's
it
the
makes
thing,
me
though.
want to play it and want to finish it too.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. I'm into that.
I think it's worth kind of knowing the order that you're supposed to do things. Because I think the game can be like really long and frustrating if you do it in the wrong order. Like I've never played it, but this is my understanding that if you don't know what you're doing, then it's very easy to get lost and left behind, right? Like just
I don't know that that's...
well, like don't you have to have the candle or else you can't do like certain things? And like, is that the right game? Am I thinking of the right
I think
game?
you're thinking of the one on the NES,
The second one?
the second one, yeah.
Oh, never mind then. Have fun. Have fun with
Isn't
Link
it?
to the Past.
Or maybe it could be Link to the Past too. I don't
No,
know.
I don't
No,
think it's
no, no.
Link
I
to the
think
Past.
you're right. I'm thinking of the one where he's like an inch big.
Is it a side scroller?
Yeah, the one that they played on Game Grumps.
Yeah, no, that's the one for the NES.
Oh,
The
okay,
NES,
fair.
that's when I regret not getting all the way to the end.
Link's Adventure?
The NES did not make it easy.
Okay,
did
sorry.
not.
Disregard everything I just said.
Not everything.
Most things.
Just that one thing. I think that I would go back, knowing that you're playing it and you've never finished it. I would go back and play it. There are a couple other NES games that I never finished, and they were all ones that I said I was going to finish in 2017, like Mega Man 2. That was one that I said I would get through. Never did. Adventure Island. A lot of the classics. I've just never played all the way through. 2018, I'll beat Mike Tyson, and maybe before our next episode, if Chris is going to commit to it, I'll maybe commit to finishing A Link to the Past.
Let's do it. We're doing it.
You heard it
This
here.
is what we're doing, guys. We're making New Year's resolutions. It's unfinished business. This is great.
So, yeah, I think I can commit to that. I can commit to finishing Zelda Link to the Past before the next episode, provided Chris also makes that commitment, and we can have that done. We can talk about Zelda Link to the Past, which will be my first Zelda game ever.
This is magical. I'll do that. I will commit to it. Committed.
I'll commit to watching.
You could play, because we have two TVs now, we could play in opposite rooms.
No.
Are you going to start from the beginning?
Yeah, I have to, yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll watch. Because I feel like there's maybe like puzzle
Puzzles?
solving stuff that I can help with.
And Kathryn, were you going to finish Dragon Age Inquisition?
I will finish Dragon Age Inquisition. I think.
Wow.
I'll try.
Not
mean,
for next episode.
Yeah, I will commit to finishing it by the time we go to the Cartridge Con in Chicago.
When
which
are we
is-
doing Cartridge Con in Chicago?
I think it's the end of July. And
Wow.
guys, I think we've gotten Chris to commit, I think. If timing works out for everyone, we will all be in Chicago
I think so.
for Cartridge Con.
That should be a good time.
CC Chicago. No, what's it called? I don't know what it's called. There'll be more details to follow.
But we have some housekeeping announcements as well.
Yeah, I guess our odds and ends are just cleaning up some house.
So this comes out January 1st, which means you have like a couple of days max to get your vote in for the CC Awards, which is the Cartridge Club's awards for Best Game of the Year. There's a lot of other categories, including Best Podcast,
Best
which
Podcast,
we are
Chris.
on. So if you want...
Are we up
We're
for
up
this?
for
Are
the
we up for this
award.
award?
So if you wanted to vote for us to win Podcast of the Year, you could head on over. The link will be in the description of this.
It is an honor to be
podcast.
nominated. There are some juggernauts in this category, so
Here's the deal, everybody. Vote early, vote often. Flock
You
of
can only
nerds.
vote once.
I think we put on the best show of all the shows I listened to this year.
only
It's
us.
one show.
And I don't even think you listen to us. I think you-
It's high praise because he listens to us and he listens to Mark Maron, and that's it. So-
No, I
Yeah.
don't think he listens to us. I think he just records and then walks away.
well, that's basically the same thing.
I've heard the
You
discussion.
know basically what we've talked about.
I know what it is. Wow, that's cool. Okay, well, if you vote for us, thank you.
Yeah, and the best game of 2017 is actually like you can pick your top 3, and so it just kind of has a
Oh.
big list of the big games that came out in 2017. You can pick your first, second, and third favorite, and then I think you can also pick just your favorite game that you played or something.
Yeah, and then there was also
There's like
the
a
favorite
write-in
your
one.
favorite game that was part of the Cartridge Club's
Oh,
top 12 games they played.
Yeah,
this
PC
year.
Prime.
Also, there's going to be a podcast after it where we go over the top 10 games that got the most votes.
cool.
And I'm going to be on the panel
look
of
at
that
you.
podcast.
Oh,
So-
look at you, wheeling and
So
dealing.
yeah, and also you can check out the latest STC pod because I co-hosted it with Travis. So Bill and Joe weren't there. We gave them a week off. They were in the Florida Everglades knuckling, whatever that
Knuckling.
means. I don't know. They were on some sort of fingering trip.
Whoa.
But
What's happening here? Here's a way more important question. How many days do you get to wish people Happy New Year before it becomes just completely a gong
all the
show?
way up until the end of 2018.
All the way until July 5th, 2018, you can be like, oh, Happy New Year!
I actually try to remember who I've said it to. So if it's someone I'm like, oh, I don't think I wish them a Happy New Year, I'll wish them a Happy New Year. Probably up until like maybe midway through January.
No. People get 2 days from me. The 2nd and the 3rd, and then I assume that I've said it to you. That's if I
You
remember
both
your
are
name.
very generous. I would give I would say it on the final day of December. Happy New Year when we transfer over to 2018. That is the last time I say Happy New Year.
See, that's good because that's like, I'm not going to wish you happy birthday after your birthday. I'm going to wish you happy birthday on the birthday.
Yep.
And that's it.
Can you say Happy Belated New Year?
Yeah, you could say that all the way up to July 5th, like Chris was saying.
Yeah, all the way to, hey, happy belated New Year. Haven't seen you. Oh, haven't seen you at all.
So last month we did a Q&A kind of mailbag episode where a bunch of people asked us questions, and the Mighty Q Dog won a huge box of different games and stuff. But we missed a question from Dean at Round 2 Gaming because he didn't use the hashtag Flock Talk. If you want to talk to us, you got to hashtag Flock Talk, right, Chris?
Dean, we got to talk about your attention to detail.
Don't be too hard on Dean. He's the best.
Dean made a commercial
order
for
to
us,
end-
just letting you know.
Dean, I don't know about this commercial business, but thank you very much for your question.
Which is?
Miles, what's the question?
With the Rampage, with Rampage getting a feature-length film, what other NES
Oh, yeah.
classics would be fun to see hit Hollywood? Bionic Commando, Adventure Island, Adventures of Bayou Billy, Kickle Cubicle. I think The Rock could pull any of these off. Hashtag Flock of Nerds. Hashtag CC Answers.
That's the wrong hashtag.
I still haven't watched the Rampage trailer, by the way. I still haven't seen
I
it.
haven't seen it either.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is probably Star Tropics. That would be pretty cool.
Okay.
Like
A
be
kid
pretty
with
out
his
there.
yo-yo killing things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually.
and the music.
Yeah.
The music's so good.
I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. River City Ransom needs a movie about these two kids trying to save this one guy's girlfriend, and they have to beat up every other kid in the city to get her.
It's kind of like the Warriors, but in a high school.
Yeah. Yes. I love the Warriors.
I never really played very many NES games except for Tetris. Maybe Tetris can make a movie. You can make a movie about Tetris.
The avant-garde Jodorowsky's Tetris.
3.5 hour silent, just soundtrack. Just music.
Yeah, and it's like a quiet French
No,
film.
Russian.
It's like, Do you think that the pieces will come together in the end?
What is the meaning of all this? Well, we all know, actually, there is a story, because if you finish that mode and you get enough lines, that castle turns into a rocket and it flies off. There is a sci-fi aspect to Tetris that no one's really talking about.
I feel like the story version of Tetris is Thomas Was Alone.
Maybe.
I think that's Tetris story mode is Thomas Was Alone.
Yeah, if there was only like that weird squiggly shaped in Thomas Was Alone, I would be on board with that. But we did see video games live, and there was an opera version of Tetris. Like, this girl she did an arrangement, and like it had Russian lyrics, so we didn't really know what she was singing, but she had lyrics to that theme song to Tetris, and it was haunting and beautiful. Like, it actually, that music makes for a pretty good opera. So,
and super racist.
but it wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a racist opera. I mean,
it's a Wagner.
It was
Jesus. He rags on it. I don't like it.
On Wagner,
I don't like it one bit.
Yeah, we know you love Wagner, but I don't think it would make a very good movie. If I could pick another one, it would not be NES. It would be Impossible Mission, right? With like a dude who's trapped inside of a big mansion of some sort, and like there's little robots protecting every room. And
do you think people would get confused if there was a Hollywood Impossible Mission?
There will never be an Impossible Mission movie, because there was Mission Impossible 1 through 7 or however many there are. But I can't think of any other NES games.
Oh, and Maniac Mansion.
Oh, yeah.
Maniac Mansion would be a killer movie.
That would be good.
Yeah, and Day of the Tentacle.
Well, thanks for the question, Dean. Sorry it's a month late, but it was actually a fun one to answer. But you still don't win anything.
Yes.
Nah, there's no winning. There's no
more
winning.
prizes. This is the first episode we did with the prizes.
Yeah.
I guess
we don't need prizes anymore. We don't need them.
We made it. We did it, guys.
We made it.
I guess
we're done.
The prizes, hope you had a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Speaking of Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
We're wrapping up a gift right now. And I guess by the time this podcast goes live, some of you will have unwrapped that gift.
It was a little preview episode of a project that we've had kind of in the works for a really long time, and we've just been figuring out the right time to release it.
Yeah, there's been some chatter online that Kathryn has noticed that is directly related to this project, and we were like, oh no, we gotta finish this up! Quick, before someone else does it.
It's our Flock Talk RPG, so you would have, the preview episode has come out, I guess, what is it, like a prologue
kind of introduces Dusty Nuts and
Mandy Bandex
to the audience.
This world.
Yeah.
And this world that Chris has created for us. And then coming out a little bit later this month, we're going to aim for mid-month, will be the first episode proper with a special guest.
Yeah, so there was some chatter very early on when we brought out the podcast of people saying they wanted us to do this bi-weekly, and I wasn't too interested in doing this bi-weekly, to be honest with you.
I don't think Flock Talk works bi-weekly just because we don't do that much every 2 weeks. Right? We don't have that much to talk about every 2 weeks.
But if we switch gears and do one episode, which is Flock Talk, and then also maybe throw in a Flock Talk RPG, it kind of opens things up for us.
Yeah. We'll talk about the making of it maybe next month or the month after, depending on how we feel.
Yeah.
But it might be a little bit different than what some of you experience in role-playing games.
Yeah, we'll go into it in more depth, for sure.
Or it might be exactly up your alley. So let us know how you feel about it. Let us know if you want something else in it, if we're not doing enough of something, if we're doing too much of something else, and if it's a valid criticism, and if I...
And Chris will promptly ignore it.
He is a tough critic. It'll be tough to get through that shell, but you should definitely try. But I think that's a good idea. Like, maybe in February, we'll kind of talk about our approach to this and how we're doing it and our ideas for the year.
You know what? Let's just throw this out there now. How about we make our February episode about Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh, done.
That's fine.
Okay.
And RPGs.
And RPGs. So if you have any stories about RPGs, tabletop, or video game, just let us know on Twitter using the hashtag FlockTalk, and maybe we'll read them out or talk about them a little bit.
Tell us your story in Twitter, like 280 characters. You should be able to
tell us about something that happened to you playing an RPG.
Or just tell us what your favorite RPG is.
Or anything.
You know what? Talk to us on Twitter. We love it.
But that's it for January. Thank you all so much for listening, and have a good one.